I ended up having 27 people call me back to clean their houses. That was my first business at 18. I did that from 18 to 21. You can't just open a business and not be there. It's blood, sweat, and tears, and it's every waking hour in order to make it work, especially from the beginning, especially for new businesses, especially for new concepts. I still kind of felt like I need to do something. I need to do something for myself. I need to do something for our community. I was kind of like, why don't we just do our own thing? Why don't you let me do a restaurant? There's not going to be anything like it in Utah, and we're going to do it right. So no cutting corners. The flowers will bring you in, but the food will bring you back. Trying to create this space was really about the experience. Bringing people together, being able to forget about the outside world for the moment that you're here. What do you see? McDonald's.
If you're a business on Utah, you're either closed on Sundays or Mondays. Mondays because of good old family home evening, and then Sundays because Sunday. If you're looking for a blanket around the house or the perfect gift for someone that they'll actually use, you have to check out Minky Couture blankets. Their Hugs blankets are soft, comfortable, and definitely the blanket you'll use every day around your house. They also make dog beds, so your dog can be just as comfortable as you are. Use the link in the description or use code Small Lake City for 50% off your Minky Couture order. What made you choose Tuesday for the
Tuesday for our close day.
Yeah.
We're busier on Mondays. So if we go back to the very beginning, we were closed on a Monday. And a lot of federal holidays fall. See, that's where I get like, can't get the word out, but I know what I need to say. A lot of federal holidays are obviously on a Monday. So we were missing out a lot of business. We were seeing the cars pull up because we have our office a couple doors down. So we're here on site. And the customers were coming and we weren't open. So then we went.
It's nice that you're right there because you're like, hold on.
I'm like, can I get you a Coke?
It's like Amazon delivery or you want some food?
Yeah. I can make you a latte. It might not be the best, but I can definitely make it if you want it.
I mean, as long as you know how. I mean, if you're gonna buy a La Marzocco, you should probably know how to run the La Marzocco. Right? Fun fact, actually, when I was so I used to do investment banking, and one of the companies we were trying to sell at one point was La Marzocco. And so anytime I go to a coffee shop at a spot, I'm like, all right, you know what you did?
Yes. I definitely didn't know what I was doing.
Isn't that the beauty? Like, that's the beauty of it.
I've learned. I'm not great at it, but I've definitely learned, for the most part, how to do it. I had to learn. I have to be able to jump into any spot. If Fabrice doesn't show up, who am I calling?
Yeah.
Oh, you're busy today? Okay, I guess I'm jumping in to do this.
And that was, I was talking to, I can't think his last name. His name is Mike. He's the GM of Slackwater in Salt Lake. And so he didn't come from like a restaurant background. He was actually like the manager of an Apple store.
Oh, wow.
And then he was supposed to go to Japan during the Olympics to open up a store there. And then they're like, then COVID happens. Like, hey, we actually don't need you anymore. His buddy's like, hey, do you want to come manage this restaurant? They're like, sure. And then he's like, cool, I have to learn everything. So he would just go like from the bees, like, cool, I'm going to be a host. I'm going to be a server. I'm going to go cook. I'm going to like just do everything.
Every position, yeah.
Otherwise, how can you manage it all?
Can't. Although I won't get on the line. I can't boil water. Kidding. Just kidding. No, the line, we get people in that apply to work on that position. And I always tell them it's more like swimming in an ocean of sharks versus like sitting on the beach with a cocktail. Like, it is intense. It's hard. It's not for everybody. So that's one thing I don't do is the line. But every other position, I can jump in and out.
Yeah. Which you should. But like, that's one thing, like, I remember when I graduated, like, because I worked at the Red Robin in college and then graduated and then went on to work. And I was like, I'm so glad I don't have to deal with that. Like, because like the stress of restaurants so different because it's like so in the moment. And then when it's over, it's done.
It's done.
Whereas like stress now is like, hey, did you want to go to sleep? How about you think about this for a while and how if you have to do that or like Sunday scaries or like all the, like the different kind of stress. And sometimes I'm like, you know what? Actually take me back there. Like, I would love to be able to just leave it there, have it be over and move on.
As an employee.
Yes, as an employee.
Not as the employer.
Yeah, that's a little bit more stressful that way.
Yeah, that stuff definitely, it doesn't ever stop. You wake up in the morning and it's like, what do I need to do? Or what didn't we do? Or what didn't get done? Or what we were supposed to have our U.S. Foods delivery today. It was set for 3 o'clock. And I was like, yeah, we close at 2. So you're going to have to bring that on Wednesday because we're closed tomorrow.
Yeah.
So they get to go and unload the truck with our delivery to load it back up to bring it back to us on Wednesday.
I feel like today's been a weird day because like my garbage always Monday 9 a.m.
sometime between 8:50 and 9 a.m. like clockwork. And I was getting ready to leave and I was like, why is my garbage full? Like, that's not supposed to happen. And I checked like everybody else's. I'm like,
Yes. So that's what we were hit with today as well, with it being a busier day. It is Juneteenth. It's being observed from some businesses today instead of Friday. Like, for instance, DABS is closed today instead of Friday.
yes.
And some banks might be closed today. I don't know for sure, but some businesses are definitely closed today. So it was very busy this morning. We'll see what happens on Friday, but
Yeah,
that's
it's such a weird day. Like,
so it's not a federal.
Yes.
I don't know who's observing it today because the banks were open. So
like another University of Utah is being observed today. So it's just kind of like a weird, like, again, that's why we're open on Mondays is because for some reason all the holidays always are off on Monday.
Yep.
So that makes sense. Because I mean, you always assume that if you're a business in Utah, you're either closed on Sundays or Mondays.
Yes.
Mondays because of good old family home evening, and then Sundays because Sunday.
Exactly. But Sunday being a brunch restaurant is one of our busier days.
Correct.
From 10:30 when liquor starts.
Yes.
In Bountiful.
Fun laws.
In Woods Cross.
Yeah.
Yep.
But no, I'm excited, Angie. It's I always love people who build spaces and experiences that are so unique because like so much of the restaurant business these days, like it's not just this job of like, hey, time to be fed. It's like, hey, I want to go have an experience with my friends. I want to be able to have a great experience together, take pictures, have a good time. I mean, phone eats first, rather than just like, hey, I just need sustenance. And so, I mean, even just like being in this place, it's like I was joking when I was setting up because I mean, 9 times out of 10, I kind of know where I was setting up. I know the background. I know how it all is. But now it's like, ooh, fun. We have flower backdrops and pink booths and neon signs.
Yes, something different for sure. I think with going back to the beginning, trying to create this space was really about the experience, bringing people together, being able to forget about the outside world for the moment that you're here. The moments, pulling the phone out, taking all the pictures, but putting the phone away after so you can really enjoy the people that you're with.
Yeah. But I want to hear about everything that happened before because you're from this area.
I am.
Which, I mean, it's always so stereotypical Utah of like whether you are somewhere or leave and then come back to the same place or are there
exactly
forever. Exactly.
Yep.
So talk to me about that. I mean, you're from here, had that experience, and then left. But I mean, I can't imagine this was the dream forever. But not up to this.
It's kind of funny when I think about it being a dream. I don't, even though it's called Plated Dreams, I wouldn't say it was ever a dream like I'm going to open a restaurant. But if we go back to the beginning, growing up here in Utah, family life was split between different homes. My parents were split, so was at mom's house, dad's house, grandparents' house, very 80s and 90s, where this is where I'm like, okay, but what was it like? A split between the families, and maybe we were kind of left to our own. So my parents were both working. I was looking after my younger brothers and sisters, and
You're the oldest?
I have an older brother, but he really actually lived at our grandparents' house. My grandfather fell ill, and so he was helping Gran to be there for my grandfather. And I was the oldest, so with parents both being out of the house full time, I was kind of left to take care of the little ones. That is something that I did until I was about 12, 13 years old. And then my first job actually was for a lady named Denise Montgomery. She owns the kid care company. So it's quite funny because she had a daycare, but she trusted me as a 12-year-old to finish junior high. Grandma pick me up, take me up to Denise's house, and I would look after her 6 kids, which one of them was a newborn baby. Like, Denise, what were you thinking?
Yeah. Like, you're fine. Have a good one. I'll be back.
Yeah, I'll be back. We'll be home at 6. That was really, really great. So started working at a very young age. Actually, even if we go back one step before that, and again, I don't even know how this was legal, but we went to pick up some T-shirts the other day, and the building that we went to down the road, my first job, I was like, holy, am I allowed to swear? Holy shit.
Yeah.
Like, I worked in this building when I was like 12 years old at a company called Photogenics. Like, we did cold calling of families to come in and to get their family photos taken. And that was very short-lived. That was a couple of weeks. Anyway, stopped doing that, went to Denise's, looked after her kids for about 4 years.
Yeah.
At 16,
Did you enjoy that? Or do you feel like, because like I imagine if you're the child who's the one that's kind of like the second parent. Because like I was the baby, my oldest sister was like the second parent.
If you're trying to keep up with everything life throws at you, work, workouts, long runs, rounds of golf, whatever it might be, having your nutrition dialed matters. That's why I use Gnarly Nutrition, from supporting my recovery to fueling performance and helping me feel good no matter what I've got going on. And even better, they're located right here in Utah. Whether you're in the gym, on the trail, or just trying to get through your day, Gnarly has you covered. Check them out through the link in the description to see why they've become part of my daily routine.
And to be like, okay, you're the second parent. Now you're going to go be a babysitter, which is another form of a parent, just to get off there and come be the parent again.
Yes.
I see how that could be exhausting.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, I guess it was fun because it wasn't my brothers and sisters now. It was more somebody else's kids. It felt like a lot of responsibility, making sure that they all got home from school, making sure that homework was done or started, cleaning up any little messes that were happening, and cooking macaroni and cheese.
That's
what I could do. Some mac and cheese, definitely. Brittany, the daughter, she still remembers the way that I would make mac and cheese. Apparently it was extra creamy. So I don't know how I did that. Maybe just extra milk.
I wouldn't if someone hands me extra creamy mac and cheese, I'm not like sending this back or like, no thanks.
No, we definitely don't eat mac and cheese from a box anymore.
But like I can relate that to you because like my parents split up when I was 10, and my older sisters, one was like when she was gonna be a senior in high school. My other sister was a freshman in high school, and I was in 5th grade. And so I was just kind of like, all right, well, I guess like, see you guys. And my mom was working a ton because she was now a single mom, pediatrician, working nights at like the newborn ICU. And so I'd just be home alone a lot. And I'd always go to friends' houses, or it was like that time of life where it's like, oh, I'll just hop on my bike and go there. I'll hop on my bike and do this, or I'll stay home. And it's like funny in hindsight because like I didn't realize until like my late 20s, like 30s, where I was like, oh, like I've always been a lone wolf. I've always been the person who can just kind of like find with myself, find with my thoughts, find being alone, but can like also like take care of myself. Mm-hmm. Like I always would rather be with other people, but like push comes to shove, like I'm good.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Probably relatable where I was left to figure things out. At 16, I chose to leave home. That's a whole nother story, which we don't need to really get into. That lasted 2 years. At 18, moved back home. Oh, there's my husband.
Please.
At 18, moved back home and was uneducated and didn't really want to go back to school. So it was during the Winter Olympics in Utah. And I was kind of like, okay, what do I do? Like, do I go back to school? Do I go and get a GED? Or do I figure out like where I'm going to go? So I created a whole bunch of flyers to pass out at what felt like mansions when I was 18 years old. I mean, they are still really big homes, but I passed out all these flyers at all these mansions. And the funny thing is the photos that were on these flyers were the houses that I dropped.
Like, why is this woman giving me a flyer with my house on it?
Who does that? Anyway, so I ended up having 27 people call me back to clean their houses. So that was my first business at 18. I did that from 18 to 21. And clean people's houses, and was charging $25 an hour, uneducated. And this was back in 2000 when I went to Olympic Sawyer.
Which is like, like I said, I'll always admire those people that have the gumption to say, how am I going to make this better? Because it would have been easy to do kind of what I would say probably like the most safe thing to do is like, okay, go get your GED, just kind of go back to the path and connect to the dots as much as you can. But you're like, you know what? I'm going to go out on a limb. I'm going to go pass out flyers. Like, because so many people that age don't. Like, it's usually so much of like a help me, I don't know what to do, and have someone kind of like tell you what to do or like just give you the step-by-step of what to do. But instead, you're like, cool, I'm going to go put out flyers. I'm going to be actionable. And next thing I know, I have all these people calling me back, and I'm making more than, I mean, if you're 18 to 21, like people then is like, oh, boy, making $10 an hour, you're probably crushing it. And you're like, actually, fun fact, I'm doing a lot better than that. And did you like, well, I mean, I guess at that point, like you really only had that experience of working as a babysitter and whatever was going on during that time. So it's not like you had a lot of things to compare it to. It's just like, all I know is to go fight for myself and what I want. Yeah. And did you feel like you enjoyed that? Or do you feel like it was kind of like just too stressful, like putting yourself out too much?
No, I mean, I liked to organize. I liked to clean. So it was just a sort of a natural thing. Yeah, made it.
And then, so that, you said that was about like 2 or 3 years. I mean, then
I did that from 18 to 21. 21, I met my husband on Match.com. I was here in Woods Cross. He was in the UK in a little town called Cwmbran, Wales. And he sent me a message that it said, "How about a spot of shopping in London?" And I was like, what? What does that even mean? Where's that? I was 21 from Woods Cross, and this was like when dial up and we had flip phones, and like the world was so big back then. Like, what does that even mean, right? So anyways, it was fun. I was like, yeah, hey, cool. Who are you? What does this mean? And we just started talking, and we talked for 3 months online. And then I packed a bag and went to the UK, booked my ticket for 4 days. Chris booked my ticket for 4 days. I got detained when I landed in London. They thought I was going to be trafficked. Like, they're like, nobody comes here for 4 days. And funny story, Chris was actually traveling from Dublin. He had gone for like a rugby tour to Dublin. And he flew in to Gatwick Airport, and I flew in, and I landed before him. So when he landed, they questioned him, because I was like, well, he's going to be landing, so you can speak with this guy.
like, perfect. It's all set up. We're going to arrest him. We'll send you back home. Tell your mama.
That's it. Exactly. Yep. Anyway, so he came through. He tells the story way better than me, but I was waiting on that side of those doors to open. And the doors open, and I saw him walking through, and I just like ran. I was like, oh my gosh, there he is. After 3 months of spending hours and hours on the phone. And it wasn't like free long distance back then. We were spending, well, I wasn't spending, Chris was spending thousands of dollars on our conversations. Anyway, run up, jump on him, and it was kind of like the beginning. Like, we're still here 22 years later.
Okay.
Yeah.
And was that, I mean, how stressed did you feel about that? Because like, I've run into this situation enough with people where it's like, hey, like, okay, like it's time, like either like some sort of putting yourself out on a limb, meeting someone, especially in like that situation where it's like, I'm either going to be trafficked or I'm going to meet the love of my life.
Terrified. When I got on that flight, I just remember bawling, thinking like, what am I doing? Like, the last thing my mom said was, that's a long way to go to get someone out of a body bag. And I was like, yeah, I guess it is. And again, when you're 21, you don't realize, how intense that is or how bad it could have gone.
Yeah.
I just went for it.
And so you meet him, you have these 4 days.
No, so that extended to 2 weeks.
Okay, I was going to say.
Yep, that was 2 weeks. Everything was going well. Came home for 2 weeks. And so with my clientele that I had, because I was still doing the house cleaning, right. It was basically like a bi-weekly thing. So I left them for 2 weeks. I came home, I got all of the houses back in order. And Chris called me and he was like, I really miss you. I was like, yeah, I really miss you too. Cheeky of me. But you're the only one that can do anything about it. He booked me a flight for the next day, which I missed. So I could go shopping at Ross.
Yes.
Yeah, I missed that flight. And he had a great night planned when we landed, or when I was to land in London. Anyway, that's again another thing. So I made the flight the next day. This was like right after 2020 9/11. 9/11? Yes.
2001.
2001. So it was more like the restrictions where you had to be to the airport 3 hours in advance. So that was part of the problem. My flight had been canceled, and they put everybody that was there the 3 hours in advance on another flight that left the same day. So it wasn't that I actually missed the time. It was that I wasn't there for the 3 hours. I was there at 2 hours. So anyway, got the flight the next day, went over for 2 more weeks, came home, and then we just did that back and forth for until November.
Wow.
Yeah. I'd go over for like a month at a time. Chris would come over here. Not for as long. He did have small children in the UK at the time, and businesses, a business rather. So it was much more difficult for him to leave to come here. But we did that until November, and then I moved over in November, and I lived there for 4 years.
Dang. What was that experience like? Did you like it being over there? Or were you kind of like, all right? Like,
yeah, it was incredible. It was very different from what I knew, but having traveled back and forth for those first 11 months of being together, I sort of got accustomed to the things that were there and the way that they sort of do things. And I, again, I'm 21. I'm going into if I dared say being a stepmom at 21, we sort of knew where our relationship was going and that we wanted to do that long term. So I had a 3 and 5-year-old and 14-year-old. So that was kind of,
Again, back to being like a parenting
yeah,
role.
yeah.
That's
And
such a-
maybe, maybe even thinking about right this moment, if I hadn't have had those experiences, maybe that would have felt really like weird, but it just felt normal.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's
Well, you
worked.
know.
Yeah.
And how long were you over there before you guys eventually?
Yeah. So we lived there. I lived there from 2004 to 2008. In 2006, we started talking about moving to America.
What made you guys want what made you want to come here instead of just staying
The
there?
American lifestyle, what America can provide. Yeah, for sure. Compared to the UK, although in the UK Europe is like at your disposal, right? So we were traveling a lot when we were there. But here in America, it was just kind of like the American dream. It didn't feel so much like you're working and like the fun that you have is you're going to the movies or you're ordering dinner. That was kind of, there just wasn't a lot to do, I guess, in the area that we were in. I mean, there was definitely a lot to do, but the things that there were to do, we just didn't do them.
Yeah.
And so we just wanted to come to America, have that sort of American lifestyle, the American dream. And the plan was, we bought our home in 2006. And the plan was to figure out when we were going to move. We didn't actually know when we were going to move over.
Yeah.
In 2008, it started to become a little bit more serious. And we had sold up. I don't know what this little bug is. It's trying to get us. 2008, we ended up selling our business in the UK, which was electronic manufacturing, and moving to America. Now, obviously, now we're leaving 3 children. And so there was just a lot of challenges leading up to that, but knowing and doing everything we could to still be there for them as much as we could. And two of the boys, our boys have ended up moving here to America with us. But let's see, so 2008, we moved here, and the plan was we were going to sell up and move to Florida, which has a...
I was going to ask, because
Yeah.
you're like, hey,
That-
ever heard of Woods Cross?
Woods Cross, yeah. No, Florida, it was kind of Chris's, I guess, ideal place, dream, God's waiting space. And the problem was when we moved, the recession hit right after.
Florida got hit pretty hard.
And Florida got hit hard, but I mean, even with Utah, our house value went down hundreds of thousands of dollars, which it was a good thing for us, not for the house, but we had sold stuff in the UK in order to move here, so we did have a lot of money. British pounds that converted like, I think 2 to 1 back then, maybe. So we ended up starting to purchase real estate. So we bought a commercial building, we bought a condo, we bought a duplex, we bought a cabin, we bought a home. We actually bought my grandmother's home. And that's kind of how, that was like 2011. So a couple of years have
Great
passed.
timing to be like, oh,
Yeah.
we're here. We
So we're here.
got
Yeah.
to invest some capital. Real estate's
Yeah.
pennies on the dollar. So
Yep.
we'll do
So
what we can.
that's exactly what we did. And that's what brought us to America.
Yeah.
Back to, where I grew up. It was safe having our home here. My sister lived there, although she was only 18, living in a 5,000 square foot home.
It's
Yeah.
all glass.
Yeah. But it was, we at least knew
So
somebody
this
was
is my
there.
other empty room.
Yeah.
And then if you go upstairs, there's this empty room
Yeah.
and there's this empty room.
She definitely had a few people over. Yeah, that's how she ended up getting kicked
Yeah.
out.
Well, then
Good old Facebook. Her friends posted pictures in our bedroom, and it was like, yeah, so you're gonna have to move out.
So here's your notice.
It's not gonna work for us. Oh, love
Well,
her.
and I feel like it's that moment where, again, like you've had these roles that you've had of like, okay, I need to take care of my family, I need to take care of someone else's kids. You go there, kind of lean into this, 21-year-old stepmom life, and then come back here where like the kids stay there.
Mhm.
I mean, at what point did you feel like you either had something like, it would have been an easy time to go through like an identity crisis of being like, okay, like I still have my husband over here. He's in a new place. So that's like hard for him.
Yes.
I'm back here, which is like kind of nostalgic and like comforting, but at the same time, like I can't imagine
Yeah.
there's like a void that kind of needed to be filled.
Definitely. And I think as the podcast is Small Lake City, it's very small. And we're going back 2008, it was much smaller then as well. So coming back to where I grew up was like everybody knows each other. But the people that I knew, I didn't really associate with anymore, I guess. And Chris being an outsider and an outsider with an accent, that was definitely hard. It's still challenging for him
Right.
to this day.
Well, and that's like one thing that's interesting about Utah that I've experienced a lot recently is because like I'm born and raised here, and I have my friends that, I mean, some of them left, a lot of like most of them came back, and if they didn't leave, they're still here, still same neighborhood, still same family, married high school sweethearts or something like semi-adjacent. And then it's fun now because I'm getting involved with, like, my girlfriend's very active in like the running community, and so I'll go spend time with them, and they'll be like, "Oh, where are you from?" I'm like, "Oh, I'm from Salt Lake." They're like, "Yeah, but like, where'd you move from?" I'm like, "No,
No,
like I'm born
from
and raised."
here.
They're like,
Yeah.
"No way."
Yeah.
And so it's weird right now in Salt Lake where there's these two kind of different populations and like experiences where, and I was even having a conversation with my like high school friends because we golf a lot. They're like, "I just feel like nobody moves here. Like, I don't understand. Like, I hear people move here, but I don't know." I'm like, "Yeah, because you don't go out of your social circle at all. Of course you don't see them."
Exactly.
And then at the other end of like the spectrum, then there's these people who are like, "I've never met someone who's from here."
Wow.
And so it's like, I can see how you, going back to your friends, it's like very insulated, insular, where they're like, "Oh, like, we're good. You left. We've been here the
Mhm.
whole time."
Mhm.
And it's always hard to like kind of come back to friendships, be like, "All right, well, catch me up.
Yeah.
Like, I'm back now."
Yeah.
Like, not saying it's impossible, but it can be hard and isolating.
Yeah, I think definitely because I left school at 16. I still maintain some of the friendships. It was different. It was different. So I think maybe the moving back part and not having the friends to come back to small Lake City, you just still see people everywhere you go, or everybody just knows everybody.
Yeah.
The ones that grew up here, the ones that are still here. It's very much like that today still.
Yeah. So you get here, you're with your husband. What's his name again?
Yep, Chris.
Chris. So you and Chris are here, is kind of
Yep.
like literally building, or rather buying the life, like the footprint that you're going to build on later.
Mhm.
But I mean, what was that next step for you, or was it mostly just kind of putting
So
yourself back where you
So
were?
moving back here, we had bought another commercial development, and just we operated okay. So we have to actually take a step back. So we sold our electronic manufacturing company in the UK before moving to America, and then throughout a short period of time, the company that we did work for approached us and asked if there was a product that we would build. That's my understanding anyway. If there was this certain product, if we would be willing to build it.
Was he interested in kind of
so-
going back into like the biz, or was he kind of
Yes.
washed his hand of it?
Yes and no. I mean, it was a risk, obviously, going back into it. But like, we didn't have anything. We'd sold everything. So going back over and finding a space and finding the equipment and finding the staff and the people that have worked with us in that business are people that Chris has known for ever, 40 years. Some of them had, they'd worked together since before his first business he opened when he was about 19, which was the electronic manufacturing. So knowing that we're going back into people that we can trust, people that we can rely on, people that don't see a clock, because ultimately we're going to be here in America. The traveling back and forth back then with having small children in the UK still, we were going back and forth every 6 weeks. So their school is
Man,
more.
you got that flight down by this point.
Yes. And that wasn't like when Delta would go direct. Not that we even fly Delta every time, but that was the school. The schooling system over there is more of a year-round schooling. They only get 6 weeks off in the summer. Then they go to school, and then they have a week off, and then they have 2 weeks at like Christmas, Easter. It was every 6 weeks, basically, is the way that it worked out that we were going over. So that we could make sure that we were still very present in their life. It wasn't their fault that we left. So
Yeah.
we just had to make sure of that. And in between that time, when we moved to America in 2008, I was 23 weeks pregnant. So we had our first son, Riley, here. But he was he has more passports. We were looking at his passports the other day. I think he has like 9 or 10 different passports because he has his American passports and his British passports. And then we had Ruby 18 months later. But in those first couple of years of the transition of going back and forth and trying to figure out how we can make that work, with the boys being there and us being here, it was a lot of traveling. And we would go back over for months at a time. We still had a home there. So we would go over for like 2 months, and then we'd come back over for couple of months, and then we'd go back over, and then the boys would come over to us for the 6 weeks of the summer. So
Yeah, a lot of back, like it's a lot of logistics,
a
but
lot of back
I
and
mean, it
forth.
sounds like you made it work.
We did. We definitely did. Even if it meant that Chris stayed here, and I would travel over to pick the boys up if it were like a 2-week break and they were coming to us. I would leave here. It was 22 hours door to door. I would leave here, get to our place in the UK, let's say, for instance, on a Tuesday night. I would have Wednesday in Wales with family and friends, maybe Thursday. Thursday night, I'd be picking the boys up and we'd be traveling to London to stay the night to fly out the next day. So we've been doing it for a very, very long time.
Lots of Delta points.
Yeah, definitely. Virgin Atlantic.
Yeah.
Lots of Virgin Atlantic points.
A lot of Virgin
yes,
points.
Yes.
I mean, at what point, so maybe there's something that in between here and there, but I mean, did this become an idea?
Okay, so back to Plated Dreams, back to the building. When we bought the other commercial building, we kind of did what we could with that. We'd had enough. We had the tenants in there. We had, revamped the building, put in new windows, and it just was like not going. Not that it wasn't going anywhere. We could have kept that, but it was more like, hey, I think we're done with this. Let's sell and move on to something else. So put it up for sale. It sold pretty quick. And we did what's called a 1031 exchange. So the pressure was on basically to find the next thing that we were going to do. Yeah. So we just started looking at land and sort of brainstorming ideas of what we wanted to do. It was definitely not a restaurant in the beginning. That was not the plan.
It's usually never, like, I love restaurant people because there are the ones that are like, yeah, like I always wanted to own a restaurant, or there was food in the house, or my family always cooked, but like whatever that,
None of that
trope could be. But then there's the people that's like, I had no idea, and then here we are.
Yeah, no, that's more along the lines. So we originally, I wanted to do a children's play center. So we were looking for land that we could either build, or we were looking for a building that we could convert into a children's play center. By that, I mean like indoor climbing frames, bounce houses. This was 2016, 17.
That's like the era of like the bounce houses showing up, and like, that makes sense.
There was one that we looked at purchasing, and we were kind of like, I think that we could do this on a different level and it not be just bounce houses, that we could put the indoor climbing frame, so like the indoor play center. And so we were looking for land or for a building to do that. But the clock is ticking. Like, this every day is like that 1031. We're going to have to pay tax.
For those who don't know, a 1031 exchange is when you sell one asset, you can move that gains, capital you get from that, into something else that's very similar without having to pay taxes on the sale.
Yes.
But there's a time limit that has to be done by. So essentially, when she's saying the clock's running, it's like, hey, we sold this, we have to move this into the next one, or else the IRS is gonna send us a check.
You're gonna have to pay the tax on it. So, clock was ticking, and in the back of my mind, we're looking for a building that can accommodate these high structures. And in the end, it was like, we're not finding what we need. And then we found this lot that this building, the B building, sits on. It used to be an old McDonald's building. So anybody that grew up in the area,
he's actually taking me to this McDonald's.
There you go.
Because like, I don't know why. So growing up, the only pancakes I would eat until probably the age of like 14 or 15 was McDonald's pancakes. And my grandma actually felt similarly. And so she'd be like, do you want to go to, like, I'd stay at their house all day. Like, do you want to go get McDonald's? I'm like,
yeah.
Of course, Grandma. We're going to go get McDonald's.
Yes. Just
so that's funny you mentioned that, because I was like, I was driving and I was like, I feel like I've been here before.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it was the old McDonald's. So anybody that grew up in the local area knows that this was the McDonald's spot. So we purchased that building, that big red dome that had the little playland in it. But what happened was, we pulled across the street in what was the Smith's parking lot, Beckett building actually. Pulled across the street, and my husband parks, and he's looking across, and he says, "What do you see?" And I was like, "McDonald's."
He's like,
childhood memories. He was like, "No." I was like, "No, I see like a mess. Like this building is like, there's no way. I am not putting our money in this building." And he was like, "Okay, get in the car." So we get in the car and we drive around the back of the building, because that McDonald's was up at the front of the lot, which is where the buildings are today. So we drive around the back, and he's like, "What do you see now?" And I was like, "Wow, this lot is huge." So he's like, "Okay, now imagine it with the building gone." And I think that was the problem, because it was up for lease and for sale for a really, really long time. It was actually up for lease, and then in the small print it said for sale. And yeah, so anyway, we came back to the backside, and he was like, okay, now imagine the building gone. And I was like, wow, this is huge. Like, we could definitely do something with this lot. And I'm thinking at the time, this children's play center. So we demolished the building, which there was a basement in that McDonald's. Their walk-in fridge was in the basement, but apparently it wasn't on like any of the city plans. So nobody knew that there was this basement in this building. So we demolished the building and leave a big old gaping hole in the land whilst we're trying to figure out, what are we going to do with this lot. And I hired a architect. Architect helped to design, and I was off educating myself on how do I run and operate a children's play center. Like, I have no idea what's going on. So, funny enough, the person I called was Denise, because I was like, hey, like, you're in the child field, and like, what do I do? And her biggest concern was like the safety.
Yeah.
It's
a lot of liability.
It's a lot of liability. Yep. And I was like, gung-ho. My kids were small, and I was like, this is what I want to do. And these types of things are really, really popular in the UK. So I was really used to being in them when we were in the UK. That's what everybody does. Yep. Like, you go to the play places. And then they offered food. So in that, I did have a cute little restaurant where the kids could be off playing. The moms and dads could like be in their own little space, having their coffees and teas and food that was, nothing elaborate. Yeah. So anyway, so we had those ideas, and spent a lot of money, got it through planning permission with Woods Cross City, was going to start construction. We had got our construction company. And then what happened? Then the Wells Fargo building, we knew it was going to be coming up for sale, because we knew that they had their signs down here at this other development. So we kind of were like, hey, how do we get that lot? It's connected to ours. Like, how do we get this lot as well? And so we put in we contacted whoever we could, because it wasn't up for sale yet. And we said, who we are. We own the lot next door. We'd really like to be able to have maybe a first refusal on that land. And they're like, nope, it's got to go to market. It's corporate. It's Wells Fargo, so they're definitely going to list it.
Yeah, no backdoor deals.
So yeah, so we were like, okay, well, can somebody please let us know straight away when it's going to happen, because we want to put an offer in like immediately. So that happened, and they accepted our offer really quickly. I don't know, if anybody else made any offers or anything, but they accepted ours. It took 10 months to close the deal. In the meantime, we had this big gaping hole here. We had put the Children's Play Center on hold. That was a huge building. It was a 20,000 square foot building. We had underground parking, which the city, they made us like sign off that, the basement could flood. So we had like different pumps to get water out. It was a major thing. It was 2 levels. It was very much a purpose-built building, which in hindsight, I'm so glad we didn't do. COVID came.
Yeah.
But also, I don't know how somebody could have changed that building to be something else. So I'm glad we didn't do that. But my accountant goes to this shop next door, the bike shop, and he's in there, and he makes a joke. He's like, what the hell's going on over there? And one of the staff members over there was like, I don't know. I think they must have had to file for bankruptcy, because it's been like that for a long time. And he knows we're purchasing the land next door. So he has a little bit of a giggle to himself. Purchased that. And then we tried to repurpose that building. Well, we looked at was it feasible to repurpose it? And there was just way too much work that was going to have to be done. But what was really cool is like I could say I own a bank, and like you could go into the vaults, that big old vault bank door, and all of the safety deposit boxes in there, which I still have all the keys. I thought that was really cool to keep the keys. Anyway, so we decided that's not going to happen. We're going to demolish that, and we're going to build what is here today, which is the All Points Woods Cross development, which consists of retail that has Cafe Rio as our anchor store. It handles ice cream, Fika infusion, which is like your wellness IV injections, vitamin shots. And in the other 2 stores, I took a chance in the beginning with a couple of different female entrepreneurs and putting them in there, basically seeing them as, I can give you the chance that somebody else might not be able to.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, the first two businesses didn't work out, and then I put another gal in there, and her business didn't work out either. I think part of that, from an outsider looking in, is it brings me full circle to where I am with Plated Dreams. Is that you can't just open a business and not be there. You're really, it's blood, sweat, and tears, and it's every waking hour in order to make it work, especially from the beginning, especially for new businesses, especially for new concepts. It's you got to be there.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much of a learning curve to it because, like, I've never met anybody who had it work out the way that they thought it was going to.
Yeah.
And so much of the part of like pivoting or restructuring or thinking about it through a different strategic lens, or, I mean, whatever that change is going to be, it's not, you're not going to have that epiphany, or you're not going to have the best insight unless you're there.
Yep.
And so many people, it's like, oh, well, I'm going to like, I had a couple conversations recently with people where they're like, oh yeah, I was just going to do this and like, it'll just print cash and I'll just like ride off into the sunset.
No.
And it didn't work out that way because
very rarely is it going to work out.
Exactly. And like the only times it does is like maybe if it's like a franchise and like come in and you can put an operator who's been in it and they go do their corporate training and wherever headquarters is, and like, sure.
But not always.
Exactly.
We've been a franchise owner as well. So that doesn't always work either. And one of the businesses was actually a franchise, and it's just the same thing. It's just not going to operate itself. And since then, we had the bakery, which we've closed down. And that space is up for lease actually right now. It's built out as a full bakery right now, but it can be converted into anything. And then next door to that is the Firm Pilates, which is a new Pilates studio, which is really, really great. Great for our community, great for the development, and brings something new.
Well, it's like interesting because like you have this front row seat where you're like, all right, I'm going to give these women a chance. And you see them kind of like fall down one by one by one. Mm-hmm. That's like an interesting context to then be like, you know what, I'm going to try to start something. But like, I mean, at what point did you decide like, hey, I'm going to do something? Because again, like you had this child's play business that you're like, all right, actually, we're not going to put the pumps in the basement. We're not going to have the 2 stories. We're going to simplify this a little bit and really start to make it this like conglomerate of businesses compared to just my own. But I mean, in having seen all of that, to be like, cool, I'm gonna do my own business, and it's gonna be a restaurant, and it's gonna be this.
So going back one more step then to the beginning, demolishing McDonald's, demolishing Wells Fargo, having it's about 1.86 acres with the 2 lots, and then trying to decide, okay, what are we gonna do? We're gonna do the retail development, gonna help to design, construct, and the landscaping. The landscaping was really important to me. Probably need to fix that. Are you doing okay?
Yeah, no, like it.
Perfect.
Carve the chandeliers.
Thank you.
Keep staring at them.
Pie Monet. They're really fun. They need a good cleaning.
That's like the thing. I could be in like anywhere. My mom would look at a chandelier and be like, how do they clean that?
Yeah, no, you have to take them off individually. It can be expensive because when one gets broken, you got to buy a pack of 4.
If you know from experience.
Yes, we do. Never leave something on top of a ladder. Yeah, but they are beautiful. I mean, even going to that, it was very much that designing stage in the beginning where it was like, how do we make something different? How do we make it beautiful? Because that's what I was good at. Yeah, our architect, he was our architect for the whole entire development. And then I told him that I wanted to do a restaurant after. He was like, we started design and everything and designing the layout and everything. He was like, listen, are you sure you want to open a restaurant? Like, why don't you just do design? Like, you're good at it. But yeah, I chose a restaurant anyway. Sorry, we'll let her finish there.
We're good. No rush.
Good? Yeah. Perfect. Okay. You have to remind me where we were. Construction, development.
It's around there. We can pick up there.
Okay. So the development, designing the buildings itself, the landscaping. And I just wanted everything to be like really pretty and like attractive. When we were doing the other build, I was really basing it off of the way that Farmington Station looked. and the big zinnias and the double knockout rose bushes, which is what we have
That's such a
outside.
good, like they did such a good job there.
They really
Like
did.
you drive into Farmington Station, you don't feel like you're in Farmington.
Exactly.
Because so much of Davis County, you could take like a snapshot of the
Copy
side
and
of the road.
paste.
You're like, this could
I know
be anywhere from North Salt Lake to like Kaysville.
Yep, exactly.
And so to say I want to make this beautiful is almost like it's just so contrary to like a lot of the area, but it's what everybody always appreciates.
Yes, and very expensive to do.
Also true.
Yes. But it was definitely a focus. I want it to be pretty. We want it to be different. And so that's what we did. And then putting the tenants in, I haven't thought about like, I'm going to do a restaurant yet. But we're putting the tenants in, and then all of the potential tenants that were coming through the door that were looking at this end unit were in the food industry. So I knew that I wanted to do something where I didn't do the children's play center. I still kind of felt like I need to do something. I need to do something for myself. I need to do something for our community. So with that, I was kind of like, why don't we just do our own thing? So I can remember standing in here. There was concrete for the first part of the floor, and then they leave that back end, for sewer lines and all that stuff to be brought in. And I'm standing in here, and I said to my husband, "Listen, why don't you let me do a restaurant?" And not like I'm asking him for permission, but I'm asking for permission. Like, I don't even know what it means at this time. Like, let me do a restaurant, because I'm not in the
But
industry.
you probably still needed to tell yourself that at the same time. Like, I'm going to do this.
Yes.
This is what's happened. Like, I need a little pep talk for myself.
Yes, definitely. And we kind of joke and say, like, after he picked himself up off the floor, it was kind of like, are you sure this is what you want to do? And not knowing what it meant, I was like, yes, absolutely. And so that's kind of how it happened.
Yeah.
And it was like, okay, if we're going to do it, we're going to do it different. There's not going to be anything like it in Utah, and we're going to do it right. So no cutting corners.
Yeah. And at that point, were you like, all right, we're going to make a brunch spot that's more pink than anything else in Davis County? Or was there a little bit more of a decision process behind that?
Both. The exposure that I had to being in the UK, being in London, and what I knew that they were doing over there, it was very much like I wanted to feel, I knew I wanted to feel like I was in London. I wanted it to feel like, or anywhere really, Paris has beautiful restaurants like this, and I just wanted it to feel like we were somewhere else. So I knew I wanted it to have flowers. I knew, well, originally the ceiling was black. Chris was like, no, we're doing a green ceiling. That's very British. So we did the green ceiling, and how much pink is too much pink? Like, you can
It does not exist.
Exactly. You can never have too much pink. So what else can we add in that can be pink? That obviously makes it more attractive for females, which is our biggest clientele. Definitely is a female base. We always say, like, the flowers will bring you in, but the food will bring you back. So the women, some men actually have come in and were like, "Oh, bring in your wife next time," and they're like, "Heck no! Like, this is our place."
Yeah, love it.
So that's been really fun. But the families that come through, the celebrations that are here, the commiserations that are here, we're available for private parties as well. I don't know. I just wanted to create a cozy space that I wanted to be in, but also that the customers would want to be in.
Yeah, I mean, when you come in, you definitely feels, definitely not Salt Lake, definitely not Woods Cross, but it does feel like it'd be a posh brunch spot somewhere in like Piccadilly Circus, and you just go and have a nice little tea and brunch and go on with your day.
Did we always know it was going to be brunch? I think that I knew we wanted limited hours. I wanted to be able to still have life outside of the restaurant.
Yeah.
Does that exist still? We tried dinner service for a very short time. We went way too high end for our community, so we closed that down pretty quick. Maybe we'll do something again, but at the moment, brunch works for us.
Yeah. What were some of the things looking back that you're like, I'm glad I never have to do that again, or like those learning moments that you couldn't have anticipated even if someone told you it was going to happen?
Our other businesses are business to business. This one is customer based. So just learning how to deal with people, learning what not to say, what to say, how to calm situations down, how to amp people up if they're having a bad day. things that we've, oh gosh. Oh, there's so much. There's so much. There's so many hard times. There's so many happy times. Um, Lessons that we've learned. I don't know. Might be half year. I have to think for a second.
Okay.
Um,
But it can also be those like death by a thousand cuts. Like it's not these big moments or big things. It's just every day of learning little by little.
yeah, I mean, I think that's really what it is. No day is the same. That's for sure. There's something, anything could go wrong at any moment. On a Saturday afternoon, busy afternoon, and the hood fan goes out. Like you can hear it clank, 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 clank. And it's like, you can't really operate without the hood because it needs to get the smoke and the gases out.
Everything's smoking around here.
Exactly, yeah. So it's like, hey, turn it on low. We can still operate. We've got like 2 hours left. And so something like that. Or the ice machine, we've unplugged the ice machine because it's super noisy. Forgetting to plug the ice machine in when we leave tonight. Wait, in the morning, there's no ice, right? So just little things.
Was there anything behind the name Plated Dreams?
Plated Dreams. We tried to come up with a name for not very long, a couple of weeks, and we just wrote down a whole bunch of names and things that were catchy and, trying to stick with 3 letters or 4 letters. And then it just kind of happened. Yeah, my husband came up with it and it just kind of happened and we just stuck with it. Yeah.
And talk to me about like the menu itself. Because like if I were to open a restaurant and put a menu together, I would over engineer the shit out of it. I would overthink it all. And I probably wouldn't even like at the end of like the decision process, I still have no idea what I'm going to do. But talk to me about how you narrowed that down and decided on the final menu.
The menu creation. The menu today is very different to the menu from the beginning. In the beginning, we were very smaller portions, very sort of European approach of the smaller portions. Yeah, that's all I can think of. Smaller portions, different. The customer, there's quite a few items that we still have on the menu today that are from the original, whether they've been tweaked or if it's the exact same recipe from the beginning. We're still doing a lot of that. But the menu today is much more Americanized, bigger portions. We do have a little bit of an elevated price tag. We're made from scratch, made to order. We're getting our food in twice a week. We're doing our own shopping I say local, we're going to Restaurant Depot and Costco and the chef store and things, but we're doing that side of the labor so that the people that are in the kitchen, they're actually seeing it rather than being brought on a big truck or items that are being brought in and warmed up. We're buying raw beef and then making it into our own patties at the correct size.
Yep.
And everything that we can is from scratch. So that's unfortunately, although somebody would say like, well, I'll just make it at home because that's cheaper. Like by the time you go to the store, by the time you spend the gas, by the time you spend the time, like
paint your ceiling green,
yeah,
have everything pink, the flowers.
Mm-hmm. It's not always gonna be cheaper.
Do the dish, yeah.
And cheaper isn't always better anyway. So there's a lot that goes into the way that our food is priced, from also the expense that it took to create this business, and where else are people going and they're able to take pictures of their food in this type of environment. So ultimately, I mean, it's the hidden charge within the cost, right? Because at some point, I'm never going to become a millionaire from this business, but at some point, I've got to get back the money that we put in, which was a fair amount.
Yeah, but it's like so nice that, like you said, and you get to be a place in the community that people get to come celebrate, commiserate. I mean, have experiences. So that's why. I always go out with friends. It's not to be like to check a box or just to make sure that we get fed. It's I want to be able to like sit with someone, not have to worry about everything else, give them my full attention, and then have good food at the same time. And it definitely adds a fun flair to some of like let's call it sterileness that like a lot of the places here used to be.
Yeah.
A lot better than a traditional Wells Fargo branch and the McDonald's that's been there since probably the 70s or 80s. And so it's definitely something that adds character and a little bit more dimension to the area.
Definitely.
And everybody enjoys that.
That was the plan. One thing I have to say, with the food and about the businesses. We don't always get it right. Like I'm willing to sit here as a business owner and say, "Phew, we don't always get it right." But if we haven't got it right, like tell us.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, why am I getting emotional about that? That's so stupid. Give us a chance to make it right. Why can we please not use this? Oh, woo. Sometimes people are really mean.
No, I've experienced enough of that at restaurants to know that some people are the worst people, and it's like, no,
Yeah.
no, thank you.
You never know who's coming through the door and what they're going through, and whether they've had a good day or a bad day. And sometimes they take it out on us.
Yeah, which is
Can
it.
I have a napkin? Woo, sorry.
No,
This is the problem, right?
No,
I'm the
just
problem,
means
it's
you
me.
care.
Okay.
Oh, good.
Stupid. Yeah, I don't know where that happened. If we need to go back.
Yeah, I think we got what we needed from it.
You're like, yeah, I'm using that.
I would. That's one thing I would never do. I would never do that if someone said don't use that.
Gosh.
Use it. That would be.
No, it's hard. You never know who's coming through the door. And if they're having a bad day, sometimes they let us know. And if we got it wrong, like give us a chance to fix it.
Yeah.
Instead of like getting in your car. Like you haven't even backed out of the parking lot and you're like writing as a review instead of like asking to speak to somebody.
Yeah.
And the servers don't know everything, right? They sometimes don't know how to fix a problem or they don't know what to say. And it doesn't matter how much training they have or don't have. Maybe they got thrown into it because somebody else didn't show up and they were training and now suddenly instead of training, they're taking 5 tables. Like you never know in this industry what's going to happen. That every day feels different. Today, like I said, I walked in this morning thinking I was going to be able to get ready and prepared for this. And instead I was a server.
Yeah.
Yeah. Instead I was bussing tables and you really never know sometimes how the days can go.
Yeah. Hope for the best, plan for the worst.
Yes. I say that all the time.
I mean, what does the future look like or what are you most excited about with Flayed Things?
Future. So we are in the process of creating the Brunch Club.
Mm.
The Brunch Club, what we're hoping to do is bring people together for, sort of networking, creating the activities to bring people together. So what does it look like? We did a Galentine's event in February. We're looking for other, whether you're a female entrepreneur or you're an entrepreneur or you have a business, being able to, kind of maybe give them the spotlight for a moment and come in and like teach a bouquet lesson or, teach somebody, I don't know, what could other things be? What is it called? Mahjong.
Very trendy right now.
Yeah. So like have a Mahjong day.
Yeah.
Or
together, everybody learns something new, good experiences. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's what everyone's.
That's the plan.
I mean, that's like the theme of right now in the world is everyone's kind of sick of these like COVID, post-COVID, like digital relationships. Like, all right, give me in person, get you something real. So
yeah,
I think it makes sense.
That's the plan. Whether we pull it together, that's the unknown at the moment. We're kind of in the beginning stages of that. Other locations, probably not anytime soon, I don't think. The reason that Plated Dreams exists is because I own the land. I don't think that I ever would have gone and opened a restaurant somewhere else. It does what it needs to do for this spot in our community. And, but never say never is the other thing about that. Yeah.
But for now,
this is good. Yeah. People, they approach me all the time, whether it's to do a franchise or to do another location somewhere, whether it be out of state. People do talk about it.
Yeah.
But I'm not ready for that. I wouldn't be ready for a franchise. There's just too many things that I'm still learning, I think, even though I'm 4 years in, 5 years if you count the year in development. There's too many things to like hand it over to somebody.
Yeah.
And then
especially when it's like your baby, but then it's also like
I know how this all works,
Yes.
to try to be like, all right, here's like
Here
the
you go.
instruction manual, or here's the
Yeah.
SOP, here's the process. Be like, well, actually, when I say this, I actually mean this. And
Yes.
yeah, I mean,
Exactly.
it's a whole other can of worms.
Yeah, even hiring managers, it's like I'd get somebody in, and I've never hired a manager from just okay, we're interviewing managers. It's like I get somebody in, and do I see potential in them to maybe hand over some of the responsibilities? And so far, I don't have a manager
Yeah.
in 4 years.
I mean, I get it. It's especially when it's your baby, I mean, people used to give you their literal babies and say, take care of this. You're like, listen, actually, I don't know if I'm ready to hand this one over yet.
Yeah. One day, it's got to happen because I've got to I can't be constantly working in the business. I need to be working on the business.
Yeah.
So
Totally.
one day at a time.
Anything else you want to make sure we cover?
Let's see. Gathering place.
Poppy
The
put
moment
together for
it
you.
started. Yes, exactly. Well, I typed it all in there, and then she was like, "Here's your bulletins. The old McDonald's. Hardest part. The hours that nobody sees. Dealing with perishable goods. Mother's Day. Mother's Day was major. That was one of the favorite wins. That was one of the questions.
Yeah, talk to me about that.
So
let's lead into that a little better. So we talked a little bit about the kind of dark sides or things that haven't gone so well, but tell me about the wins or the times you're like, I'm glad I did this. This is what I want.
yeah. So from the beginning when we opened, we got really, really busy really, really quick, and we didn't know what we were doing. We didn't know how to handle it. We didn't even we were writing reservations on a piece of paper and trying to know how long is somebody going to stay. Do you know how hard that is? You can't take reservations unless you have time limits.
Yeah.
So learning that very early on, that we have to have some element of a time limit. This is for our busy periods. This is for your Saturdays and Sundays. This is for your federal holidays, things like that, where we had to create a time limit, because in order to take reservations and say, yes, you can come in at 4.
Yeah, if there's someone still in your table,
Yeah.
I don't care how much you want to be here. If you had a reservation,
It's
they're still sitting there.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And we're very limited on tables. When we first opened, we had 16 tables. Today we have 28 tables inside. So we had to figure out, how do we get more tables? Yes, okay, people are a little bit closer to each other, but still far enough apart. There's plenty of restaurants where you feel like you're eating with your neighbor. So we've tried to create space so people can really enjoy their time, but still be able to have more tables. So that means less wait time, and really find, how do we balance reservations with walk-ins? So I tend to say we do about 50-50. So I have 50% reservations, so I know how to staff, how much food we need, because again, we're dealing with perishable goods. So how much do we need? And trying not to upset people when they've been planning to come here for 2 weeks and they've looked at the menu and they know what they want, and now, I'm so sorry, we're sold out. Dealing with that is, people, restaurants sell out of stuff.
Yeah.
It was good. So it was just one of the ones that's already gone. So it's not really a lack of preparation, because we can only prepare for what we see versus really the walk-ins. And also, you can only make 35 Monte Cristos out of the 100 people that are going to show up. We might sell 35. We might sell 25.
Yeah.
So anyway, one of the bigger things with this year, specifically for Mother's Day, we've always been really busy on Mother's Day. It's our busiest weekend of the year. But this year, I don't know exactly how I did it, but somehow I managed to fill up our reservations. So we did mostly reservation-based for inside, with the time limit of the 90 minutes per table, and just one after the other. They were out, and when they were standing up, there was somebody cleaning that table, ready to sit the next party that was waiting. And it was just very, very structured. So to put it into perspective for anybody that's in the industry, we did 421 guests on 35 tables in 5.5 hours. That was pretty major.
Yeah.
That was pretty major.
Going from the beginning, where you're like, all right, we're going to write this on a napkin. We're going to make sure this goes well, to being like, oh, we got it. We got it dialed.
Yeah. So that was really special. And just trying to live up to that, trying to have the next win.
Totally.
Yeah. One day at a time.
One day at a time. No, absolutely. Well, before we wrap up, I want to ask the 2 questions I always ask people at the end of each episode.
Okay.
Number 1, if you could have someone on the Small Lake City podcast and hear more about their story, what they're up to, who would you want to hear from?
Yeah. So this is actually our newest tenant, the firm Pilates. They've got a story, and this is their second location, taking a big risk coming into this community. And I'd love to learn more about them. They're my tenant,
Yeah.
and we signed a lease, but I just don't know. I don't know a lot about them, so I think that could be really fun to learn about them.
Shit. I mean, second location's always the hard part.
Yeah, it's a bigger risk than I took.
Totally. And then if people want to find out more about Plated Dreams or hear what's coming up at the Brunch Club, what's the best place to find information?
Yeah. So our website, plateddreams.com. Instagram, Plated Dreams Cafe. We're on TikTok. We don't have a huge TikTok presence. We're getting there. When I'm wearing all the different hats, it's
Last thing you're thinking is, we should probably shoot some content.
Yeah. So we're getting there. We know it needs to be done. We know that that's how a lot of people find us. A lot of the customer base comes in. They're taking the pictures, they're sharing on their networks. So some of the work is being done, but obviously when people are trying to find us, Plated Dreams Cafe on Instagram, we need to do better. I know. I'm sorry.
You got a lot.
We'll get there.
We're
getting there. We're getting there. We're getting there.
Deal. And it's been so great. I mean, love the space.
Thank you.
Love everything you're doing. Mother's Day is a great crowning moment of all the work that you put in, and excited to see what else happens with all of this.
Thank you very much.
Likewise.